public. I know we're not in session yet,
Okay.
but I just I had a question too. This might be in the youth and governance update that's on the agenda, but I know in the YIG handbook, it just talked about the first meeting having youth and governance participants introduce themselves and having the committee members introduce themselves as well. So just wanted to put that out there. Not sure if that's plugged in or.
It is. I was going to have everyone introduce themselves just because of this format. So
Willow's on.
All right.
Great. Thank you.
With that being said, it is now 6:02. This is Chairwoman Melissa Caprillion. I am going to call the Government Services meeting to order. And before beginning the items on the agenda, I want to cover a few things. And the first thing is if we could keep our computers or the device we're using on mute unless you will be speaking. Thank you. I'm just going through the panelists right now. Thank you, Sophia. And also those who are on the Government Services Committee, if we could keep our video cameras on just for transparency reasons, and this meeting is being videoed for not only the record, but for future public viewing as well. For this meeting, for votes, what we are going to be doing is there is a WebEx feature of a raising of the hands. So that is how we will be voting. And but for making a motion or speaking or seconding a motion, just unmute yourself and you can call out for those motions. But for voting purposes, we will be using the raised hand feature. Granted, this is the first go round at this virtual meeting, so we might have a little hiccups, but we'll work through them as we go. All right, let me see if there's any other things I wanted to cover. Yes, please state your name prior to speaking. We do have some possibly that are listening on that cannot see you. There is only a couple faces being seen at a time. So if you could just state your name prior to speaking, that would be much appreciated. All right, so welcome. This is the very first Government Services meeting of this term, and with that comes also some new youth and governance representatives. What we will be doing is going through and introducing ourselves just to each other, and then also just for the public as well. So I am Melissa Caprillion. I am the supervisor of the 4th, and I am the chair of this committee. And I would ask that the vice chair introduce himself next, please.
Okay, thank you, Chairwoman Melissa. This is Scott Meyer speaking, and I am the supervisor for the 16th District, also your vice chair for this committee. Welcome the youth and governance reps, and welcome everybody else to our first audio/video type of meeting. So it'll be interesting, and we'll work through it together. So welcome and thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Meyer. Next, if we could have the secretary please introduce himself.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Hey, everyone. My name is Nick Demske. I'm the County Supervisor of Racine County's 1st District, which covers some of the city of Racine, very eastern, over by the lake, and part of Mount Pleasant. Very happy to be on our first video conference for the county with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you kindly. Again, this is the chair, Melissa Caprillion. I'm going to go down the list that I'm seeing on my panelist participant list. And next I have Supervisor Lawrence, if you could please introduce yourself.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Supervisor Emily Lawrence for the 10th District, and it's my first Government Services Committee meeting, so I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
Supervisor Caprillion speaking again. Next, if we could have Supervisor Maldonado.
Hello, everybody. My name is Supervisor Fogg Maldonado. Pronouns he, him, his. Glad to be here. Thank you so much.
Supervisor Caprillion speaking again. Now next, if we could have Supervisor Wish.
I'm John Wish, Supervisor of the 15th District, which is part of Caledonia. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Wish. Supervisor Caprillion speaking again. And the next I have is, let's see, Supervisor Smetana.
Hi, I'm Steve Smetana. I'm supervisor for the District 3, the north side of Racine, and this is my first government services meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Caprillion speaking again. Next, we are going to have the youth and governance introduce themselves. We'll start, please, with Sophia Sandoval, please. And tell, please, what school you go to.
Hi, my name is Sophia Sandoval, and I am in Youth and Governance, and I go to Union Grove High School.
Thank you kindly. We have one other Youth and Governance rep. We'll just, that would be Willow, and let's see if she's able to introduce herself. If not, maybe we'll ask her mentor to speak about her. Willow, are you able to speak?
Hello?
Oh, very good. Willow, if you could introduce yourself, please, and what school you go to.
Hi, my name is Willow Noel, and I'm a junior, and I am homeschooled, so I do virtual learning.
Very good. Thank you ever so kindly. Again, this is the Chairwoman, Melissa Caprillion speaking. And with that, we will begin our agenda. I do notice that in attendance, we do have the Chair and Vice Chair of the County Board present also that I wanted to note. And we have a government department official, MT Boyle, also present. If I am missing anything else, please chime in. Otherwise, I would like to begin the agenda. And the first thing on the agenda, we have the Youth and Governance representative read a statement. Sophia, now that we know that Willow can speak, I would ask at Willow, if you are prepared, could you please read the statement of Youth and Governance?
Yes, definitely. Hello, we, myself, Willow Noel, and Sophia Sandoval are members of the Racine County Youth and Governance Program, and we will be participating in tonight's meeting. This program serves to empower youth in Racine County by encouraging us to participate in local government. We have agreed to abide by the applicable standards of conduct that would govern any elected county board member. While we are encouraged to participate and are allowed to have a non-binding advisory vote on matters before the committee, all formal action taken by this committee will be based solely on the binding votes made by the county board supervisors.
Chairwoman Melissa Caprillion speaking. Thank you so much, Willow. What we're going to do is go to the first thing now on the agenda that's posted up on your screen is public comments. There has been no public comments that have come in. So we can move actually down to number 4 as we have nothing for number 2 and 3, and that is new business. So we have Pam Larson, who's going to give us a youth and governance update.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for having me join you this evening. Excited to be here and excited to be giving everyone an update. Last Tuesday on May 12th was a very busy day for youth and governance. First and foremost, we had the Racine County Board recognize the outgoing youth who had served for the past year. We were fortunate enough that 3 could be in person and give a presentation regarding the 2 group projects that they completed this year on the essentials of voter registration, as well as the recommendations that they made for the supervised visitation room at the Dennis Cornwall Service Center. So was so happy with their service this year. They were very involved, they grew a lot, and I wish them all well, and just am so happy that I got to work with them last year. Great group of youth. Equally excited I am, that sounds a bit like Yoda, I am about the incoming group. We have 10 new youth representatives, of course, Willow and Sophia, who are joining us today, as well as 8 others and an alternate. So really excited about that, and I wish them a fantastic term. On May 12th, we did hold their orientation, and they learned quite a bit on that day. I mean, I'm confident that they have a foundation on which to start their service. They learned about county government. They learned about the expectations of their roles. They also learned about the 5 different county board committees and the prime responsibilities for each committee. It was a great opportunity for them to be introduced to each other and to the supervisors who were able to join us. So a great big shout out to Supervisor Roanhouse and Kramer and Demske and Miller and Ekman. And oh, I hope I didn't forget anybody, but I know they were there and helped make orientation that much more special. So thank you. So segueing into continued orientation, I'd like a part 2 in which the youth and governance representatives meet with their mentors. I was hoping to do that in person at the end of June. Of course, we'll have to see if that is possible or not. If not, we'll have to look at another way in which to have them spend some time with their mentors, and as well as learn a little bit about open meeting law. So looking forward to that. Ideally, it will be on June 23rd. That's the plan for now, right before the Racine County Board meeting that evening. The other part of their orientation is the bus tour, and that is scheduled right now for June 25th. Now, I did reach out to Mike Lansdorf, and he said it's close to a month ago that he thought we'd be able to proceed, but the but to that was check in at the end of May and let's see where we're at. Because I did recognize that there may be some departments that are still not working, or like, for instance, we go to the juvenile detention center and the jail, and they may have some special visitation requirements. And so I will do that. I'll reach out the first week of June, but I want to start pre-planning. And so part of the discussion, I know MT had reached out to me, and one idea is perhaps a virtual bus tour. So perhaps that is something that you have all been thinking about and we can talk about. Another thought is we could delay the bus tour until later in the summer when perhaps more departments will be opening up. So that's a possibility as well. And so that's really our next steps. Or we could also do a 2-part bus tour as well, where we'd only do a half day, for instance, and cover only the constitutional departments. And then another day we could, for instance, do anything related to the justice system. So just some ideas, and really would appreciate your feedback as well, or any thoughts you have. But that's what I have for you this evening.
Chairwoman Melissa Caprillion speaking. Thank you so much, Pam. Really appreciate that. The one feedback that I would have is that I would hope that we could do it sooner rather than waiting for later in the season. So if that means a virtual tour, then so be it, just because to have the youth early on get familiar with what the county government has to offer, I feel that would be more beneficial rather than waiting for later, especially when they're looking to develop their project. And as you know from past youth and governance members, they often got their ideas from the tour. So did anyone else from the committee have any contribution to this conversation? Very good. I don't see any. So thank you so much, Pam. We are going to now move on to the report number 2020-4, report by the county executive making a reappointment to the Graham Public Library Board of Trustees, and that is for a Jill Peterson. This item would require a motion.
This is Supervisor Demske. Move to approve the reappointment.
Do we have a second?
This is Supervisor Meyer speaking. I would second that motion.
Very good. Chairman Melissa Caprillion speaking. How we are going to do this, if there is no discussion. I do see Supervisor Wish, you do have your hand up. Was that to vote, or did you have a comment?
Going back one step, the bus tour From what I'm seeing, the city of Racine is extending their stay at home until July 31st. I don't know if that's going to create a potential problem in, if you move it back any further. The virtual tour, I think, would probably be the best choice at this point in time.
Very well noted. Yeah, thank you so much for adding that. Okay, so we have cleared the hands. Oh, we do see Supervisor Lawrence. Did you have a comment?
I did, thank you. This is Supervisor Lawrence. If it's possible for new supervisors to attend the virtual bus tour, I for one would appreciate the opportunity to do that.
Chairwoman Melissa Caprillion speaking. Absolutely, and it's highly encouraged as well for the supervisors to take part in that. So thank you. All right, we actually do have a motion and a second on the floor. So if we can go ahead, and what I'm going to ask you to do, if there is no discussion on this appointment, I just want to make it clear for the youth and governance representatives, we are going to have you vote after the supervisors vote. And again, their vote is non-binding, but we will go ahead and I will ask for discussion of this motion. Is there any discussion? All right, all those in favor, could you please use the hand raising feature on the WebEx if you are in favor of the motion? All right, it has passed. It is all in favor for the secretary taking notes or for MT. Can we clear those hands, please? Whether if you can do them yourself or the host, if you could clear all the hands. Thank you kindly. I am now going to ask the youth and governance representative, if you are in favor, could you please use your hand raising feature? Willow, would you be in favor of that? Very good. Thank you so much. It did. They both voted in favor. We have the next item on the agenda is report number 2020-7, report by the county executive making a reappointment to the local emergency planning committee. And that one is for Supervisor Robert Miller. And this item requires a motion as well.
Move to approve, John Wish.
Second, Supervisor Maldonado.
Chairwoman Melissa Caprillion speaking. Thank you. Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing no hands raised and no unmutes, I will ask all those in favor, please raise your hand. Very good. That does pass by all supervisors. Now, if we could clear those hands, host, please. Thank you. Now, thank you. Now for the youth and governance representatives. If you are in favor, please raise your hand. Very good. They are all in favor. Thank you. Next on the agenda, I want to speak a little bit about this. Again, this is Chairwoman Melissa Caprillion. We will often see, so for the new supervisors to this committee, we often see resolutions that come from other municipalities. And how these will be handled is they are really for informational purposes. These are not actionable items as they sit right now. So you take them as information. If it is something possibly that you would like the Racine County Board to support, we can always move that to the next meeting agenda along with a resolution. If you decide it'd be a resolution that the Racine County Board you would like to see before the Racine County Board. Otherwise, the majority of these, I would say, and other committee members who have been on government services could speak up too, a lot of these are just received and filed. So again, these are for a point of information. And what we can do is support them by sending a letter as a body of a whole, if you find it is something that is very strong, or we can adopt our own resolution. So one of these items that is on our agenda this evening, which is our first resolution, we do have Supervisor Kramer who will be speaking on it. This has come from our last Government Services Committee meeting, and this is one of the items that he has special interest in. So you will be seeing now, this is kind of an anomaly. Otherwise, a lot of these do get received and filed. So being that the first resolution, number 191220, Wood County, in support of the proposed revision of Chapter NR 151, Wisconsin Admin Code to set newer standards to abate pollution of groundwater by nitrate. Again, this was a deferred item. I am going to ask for the Vice Chair of the County Board, Supervisor Kramer, to speak on this.
Thank you, Chairman Caprillion. Y'all can hear me? Shake your heads if you can. All right, thanks, guys. All right, this was held over from the February meeting, and we were going to meet on the St. Patty's Day, and of course, prior to that, it got canceled. So we're bringing it back tonight, as the Chairman Caprillion said. Let me give a little background, and first of all, if you read it, it talks about NR 151. Now, NR 151 deals with a lot of different items. Groundwater's one, runoff, lake water, and it's about a 150 page administrative rule by Natural Resources, hence NR 151. And this resolution from Wood County deals with nitrates. You can get nitrates from fertilizer, or you can also get nitrates from manure and livestock operations. Wood County is either in the north.
Interrupt, Supervisor Kramer. This is Chairwoman Caprillion Becker. May I ask the presenter to scroll down to this resolution so the viewers can see what you're speaking on? If we can just scroll the PowerPoint down to this resolution. There we go. Up, down two more. One more, please. Thank you kindly. This is it, and maybe we have to just minimize the screen just a wee bit, just to fit a little bit more in. I apologize, Supervisor Kramer.
That's all right. That's all right. There's my dog.
Please continue.
Okay. All righty. So basically, we're talking about nitrates, and either this came from the northeast part, Wood County, or the central sand regions, and that's where they talk about very permeable soils. The northeast, they got the karstapel, which is mean the bedrock is actually exposed in some places, so the nitrates would go underneath the bedrock. And of course, sand, we've all played in the sand at the beach, and the water goes right straight through it. So I looked at, and I called Chad Sampson over in Soil Conservation, because he deals with this day to day to get a report back to our board here. And that's where we're at. So what is Racine County, how do we handle the nitrates is really what we were looking for. And it goes into, NR 151. First of all, we'll talk about large farms. Now, if you have livestock from 500 to 1,000 head of cattle, you have to have a livestock sitting committee, and the county sets that. And currently, we don't have any of farms that are in that size. The one we did have was Dover Dairy, and they actually, with the dairy markets being the way it is, went out of business. But what Chad was saying, they didn't have enough land for the manure. So what the county requires in the siting committee under our Racine County's manure management plan, they need to actually lease or get get an agreement with area farmers in that area in the Dover Township to where they could haul their excess animal waste out onto the fields, because you don't want to overload the system, and that cause the runoff that they're trying to get away from here. So there's other ways you can get nutrients into the ground, and that's from commercial fertilizer. Again, we're talking commercial fertilizers as farms, basically. And this is what they're talking about here. Now, in Racine County, we had quite a bit of land under a nutrient management plan that was now in the Foxconn, Wisconsin Valley. Right now, we have about 20% of the farmland in this nutrient program. It's required by the state, and the federal government requires that if you receive any kind of subsidies, if the farmer receives any kind of subsidies. Now, Chad said that he figures about 80 to 85% of the farm soil test and have their own nutrient management plan, but because they don't receive any federal subsidies that require it, they don't file a plan with the county. Now, when they file a plan with the county, they have to, report every year back to Chad. And having grown up on a farm, I know that the one of the biggest costs is fertilizer when you're planting any kind of crops. So a lot of the farms, about 80 to 85%, have their own nutrient management plan, because in the long run, fertilizer is expensive and they're in it to make a profit. So we talk about the permeable soils at the beginning. The sand soil is very permeable, and the bedrock exposed is, helps. And that's what this is asking for, is to change those targeted performance standards. Now, NR 151 is a statewide program, so it has to kind of fall in for everybody, kind of one size fits all, and that's the DNR, so they can have equal enforcements. What we have in most of Racine County is a white clay base. Now, if you've ever tried to clay, it just doesn't permeate, and you could drive around after the 3 inches of rain and see that we have a lot of water standing, and that's because it takes a while for the clay to let the rainwater, which is go through, and that also prohibits this nutrients, the nitrates, to get down into the groundwater. So with the review that I had, my recommendation, if I was still on the committee, would be to receive and file. Thank you, Chairman. Is there any questions or anybody has to ask?
Chairwoman Melissa Caprillion speaking. Thank you so much, Supervisor Kramer. I am just fascinated by this discussion. I do not have any questions, however, and I don't know if I will open it up to the body if you had any questions for Supervisor Kramer.
This is John Wish. I move to receive and file.
Okay, we do have a motion. Is there a second on the motion?
Second, Supervisor Maldonado.
All right, we do have a second. I did see Supervisor Lawrence's hand go up. Supervisor Lawrence, did you have a comment or a question?
I did. Thank you. This is Supervisor Lawrence. Thank you, Madam Chair. If you can explain, receiving and filing it means we are taking action to recommend to the full board, or we are not taking action to recommend to the full board, or what does that mean, please?
What that means, it basically will be put to rest at this committee. It will not go back to the county board.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, is there any other questions or discussion on this motion to receive and file? I do not see any hand raises, so I am going to call all those in favor of receiving and file. Please use the WebEx feature of raising your hand. Very good. Everyone has raised their hand. That is a county supervisor. Now it's the youth and governance turn to vote. Youth and governance. Willow, are you in favor of? Very good. Thank you. All right. Everyone has raised their hand in favor of receiving and file. Thank you so much. If the host can clear those hands. Now, these next item on the agenda, how we will handle these here on out is they are a lump sum so we will all either vote to receive and file, kind of like what you would do with a consent agenda, unless there is an item that you would like to pull out, just as Supervisor Kramer pulled out that last resolution. So if you've had an opportunity to read over these resolutions, and if you did not have any discussion on any of them, we would be looking for a motion.
John Wish, move to receive and file.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Supervisor
Meyer, thank you.
All right. Thank you. So for clarity, we are moving to receive and file resolution number 1920/112, resolution number 1920/113, resolution number 65-3-20, and resolution number, no number, but of Portage County. Is there any discussion? I see that Supervisor Wish's hand is up. So Supervisor Wish, did you have any comments or discussion?
Nope. Move on.
Sorry.
Right. Sorry.
No worries whatsoever. Supervisor Lawrence, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is Supervisor Lawrence. My understanding is that referral 5E from Portage County is an issue that I believe has been discussed previously. That's a recommendation for a referendum to create a nonpartisan procedure for the preparation of redistricting plans and maps. I think I would prefer that does be considered by the committee and the full board and not simply received and filed. But I do recognize I'm not completely cognizant of the procedures or votes that might have taken place before I was elected to the board.
Very good. Thank you, Supervisor Lawrence. This is Chairwoman Melissa Caprillion speaking. You're absolutely right. This has come before this body before. What we can do if they're, as of right now, they are all lumped together. If this body feels comfortable, we could always make an amendment just to have B, C, and D resolutions lumped together. If you would like to take up that separately so you could have a separate vote on that item. I see that Supervisor Demske's hand is raised.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. This is Supervisor Demske. I just wanted to speak to the topic that Supervisor Lawrence is bringing up, and just to maybe add a point of clarity. Receiving and filing these, though this was taken up by the body in the past, because there is a new county board, it's basically a new session, so it could be taken up again if any supervisor wanted that to happen. And receiving, as to my knowledge anyways, Madam Chair, feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, or anyone else, but receiving and filing this communication of another county going through that process would not preclude our county from, or any supervisor on this committee from introducing that for consideration again in this session. Thank you.
Chairwoman Melissa Caprillion speaking. You are absolutely right. It is just receiving and filing this particular resolution from Portage County.
Madam Chair, this is John Wish.
Yes.
You might want to read that resolution because the dates on there would not be appropriate for putting it forward to the county board. If Supervisor Lawrence would like to proceed with something with the county, she could probably put together her own resolution, but I don't think you can use this particular one. You might want to just check that as a point of.
Thank you, Supervisor Wish. This is Chairwoman Melissa Caprillion speaking. Yes, as stated at the beginning, these resolutions are basically a point of information for this committee. We would have to take up our own resolution and it would have a little bit different of a language. And a lot of times this information from the other counties can be used as a model going forward. So if you are interested in Racine County taking up an issue similar to this, it would have to be relanguaged anyway. So one of the actions that this committee could do, just as Supervisor Kramer did, is ask that the item be drawn, pulled out of this agenda, to put on the next agenda to be spoken at the next committee meeting of government services with your proposal of action. As Supervisor Kramer's action or suggestion was to receive and file, but he had some information to present to this board. So if this is, again, an item that you don't want to see received and filed at this meeting currently being conducted right now because you would like to draw up your own resolution or would like to speak on it, we can ask that be separated. So it would be an amending the motion that currently sits on the table of all these resolutions being lumped together. I see still Supervisor Wish and Supervisor Demske's hands still raised. Did you have more to comment?
No, thank you, Madam Chair.
So I'm just going to ask, this is Chairwoman Melissa Caprillion speaking. Supervisor Lawrence, are you comfortable with as the motion sits right now?
I am, and I thank my colleagues for their further explanation.
Very good. Thank you kindly. This is Chairwoman Melissa Caprillion speaking. Is there any other discussion on these resolutions? I see no hands being raised. So all those in favor of receiving and filing, please use the WebEx feature of raising your hand. All right, the motion does pass. Now we do have the Youth and Governance's vote. Very good, and both their hands were raised. Thank you so much. Well, we all did fantastic. This actually concludes the very first government services meeting of this new term and of a virtual meeting. I think quite successful. I thank you for everyone's contribution and staying on video, not turning yourself off. So we got to see your faces. You're being brave. Did anyone have any comments before we adjourn this meeting or any questions? And if not, I would just ask for a motion to adjourn. I did see some hands going up, so unless it was from the last vote, if we need the host to clear those hands. All right, I will just start with Supervisor. Can we raise your hands again if you did have any comments? You guys are looking to adjourn. All right, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Supervisor Wish, motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Supervisor Wish. Second?
Demske.
Very good, that was a second. All right, I doubt that anybody is going to be contesting that, so I'm going to call the meeting adjourned. And again, note that this has been recorded and we'll hopefully get this posted onto our website where government services is listed once we get closed caption. And thank you so much. everyone. Have
Thank
a
you.
good evening.
Thank you, MT. And Al.
Thank you.
You
Thank
guys been at
you.
it all
Good night,
day.
everyone.
Good night.
Hey, everybody.
Good night,
Thank
everyone.
you.
MT.
You guys did great.
Thank you, Melissa.
Nice to meet you, Emily.
So you did great. Thank you so
Good
much.
job, youth in governance.
Yes.
Give you all
Willow
give all
and
yourself a
Sophia.
round of applause.
I think everybody's a rock star tonight.
Thank
y'all.
you.
See y'all.
Thank you. Thank you.
Ooh, nice iPad.
All right, MT, are we done recording or are we still recording?
Oh, thank you for telling me to stop recording.